Hey, welcome everybody to leg number 18 on this Trail Talk series. This is my Glasgow to Waynesboro leg. It's a 77-mile leg, and for most of us, unless you really like to carry a lot of food or you're super fast like early riser, you're probably going to need to fit in a resupply in there somewhere. A comment from my last video. You remember I stayed down at Glasgow at the park there, and one of my viewers mentioned that Stanimal, who has a hostel in Waynesboro, has opened a hostel now in Glasgow. So you have another option other than the park, which also means a possible ride to the hostel at a pickup at the trailhead instead of relying solely upon hitchhiking. So that should be noted for folks coming behind. Now, for those who want to watch video of this series, I think it starts around day 104, and the actual time frame is June 14th. It may say June 21st on my videos because you upload those kind of after the fact anyway. So. All right, so day 104, if you want to go back and actually watch the videos of this section. Now, what I had determined is, somebody said, hey, instead of taking zeros, why don't you take, like 2 Neros? You come in, get in early, leave late the next day. You get the benefit of a zero, but you only took 2 Neros. And so that's kind of what I did this time. I got in, I crossed the James River Bridge, got into Glasgow early, did some laundry, uploaded some videos. Got some food to eat the next day, did the same thing, kind of took my time getting out of town. So I think actually it was probably more like midday. I think I ate a lunch before I left, and then I got the ride out to the trailhead and then and started up. So let's see. So I ended up, if I remember right, and I forgot to circle it, but I think I actually stayed at this John's Hollow shelter here, or I may have just done a lunch here. I can't now. No, I think I left late enough in the day that I just kind of got to the shelter and decided it was a little bit too far to go to where I wanted to be able to camp next for the day. So I kind of boxed myself into staying here that night. And let's see. So once that next day started up, and there's some really cool views that are along the road here. Let me just show you one. Looking back, I think it's this view here that is a really cool shot of the James River looking back towards Glasgow. Okay, so coming off the view. You've got a few gaps here. You're going to go through some ridgeline walking, Bluff Mountain, and as you come up here to Bluff Mountain, there is a view here that it's kind of pretty. It starts to show the Shenandoah Valley. There is a little memorial here to I think this is a child that had gotten lost and he was like 8 years old and had wandered like 8 miles away from his home and climbed up to the top of this mountain, and he died up there. It's kind of a sad little memorial. And then a descent down into the Punch Bowl. At this point you've got some decisions that you can do, some things that you can do differently. This was a rugged enough hike for me that by the time I was at the Punch Bowl, I was kind of tired. Went to get some water. The spring was dried up. There's a little pond there that was just nasty. The water's coming out of a rusted out galvanized culvert that was all the water's coming out kind of yellowy. The Sawyer filter did a good job of filtering out the sediment. It's one of those where if you're using Sawyers, you kind of wish you had some Aquamera. If you're an Aquamera user, you kind of wish you had a Sawyer. So it is an opportunity for maybe people to share a little bit there, because it seems like you want just a little bit more in treating that water. Had I had to do it over again, I may have gone down here reservoir, to this campsite. This was really, really beautiful. This was nice down in here. So I had to do it over again. I probably would have skipped the punch bowl and ended up here. But because I stopped at the punch bowl, I got to meet Gary Daly, Toonies, and he is one of my subscribers, and he recognized me. And he was going to go. He's a school teacher, and he does section hikes in the summer, piecing the Appalachian Trail together, and eventually he's going to do a through hike. But his section for this summer was to Waynesboro, and he had his sons coming out to hike with him, and he had a daughter with him right then, and her boyfriend, and it's kind of neat to kind of meet him, and then we were going to hike to Waynesboro together. And also met Leslie, who didn't have a trail name yet. She was there hiking with her parents, and she is an Army captain that had gotten out of the military, and she was kind of in special ops before the women were allowed in special ops. So pretty neat gal, and she had a butterfly that kept landing on her pack, and she didn't have a trail name yet, so it kind of looked like a monarch. Well, it wasn't a monarch, but it looked like a monarch, so I started calling her Monarch. She liked it, and she adopted that trail name, and so that was pretty neat. So anyway, here's the first time you get a Buena Vista if you got a resupply, but I noticed that when I did my planning, okay, it's on a gravel road, maybe not the best place, plus it's only one day from my really from Glasgow where I resupplied, so I decided I was not going to resupply there, but I was going to go ahead and go to the next opportunity to go into Buena Vista. That next day, as we hiked, once again came down here. There's a very beautiful hike down along the reservoir here, and that was pretty neat. Oh, one thing I do need to mention here is a big moment crossing over the 800-mile mark, and let me show you what that looked like for me. Okay, so from this 800-mile mark here, once again, very, very, very beautiful, very beautiful walk, and we get into this Brown Mountain Creek Shelter. This is kind of cool because as you're hiking through this area, you're coming across old ruins of homesteads. Apparently, a lot of the freed blacks in Virginia, this is where they went to basically homestead and create a life for themselves. In this very isolated kind of little mountain valley up in here, and you can see a lot of the old stone hedgerows and things like that, and there's remnants of some the old chapel that was in there. So it was kind of cool. We ended up staying the night here. It was kind of a very short day, to be honest with you. Why? I was hiking with Gary and his daughters, and with Lisa and her parents were struggling along, and I don't know. I just felt this connection with them all, and wanted to kind of hang out with them for a little while. So we ended up stopping here for the night, and I actually got down into the swimming pool here and took a little I just called it a little refreshment, where I splashboard on myself. Tried to get some of the grime off. This is the beginning now of the ammonia smell starting to accumulate on my clothes with the sweat, and making it kind of awful. This is about every night now. I'm starting to because I'm not getting enough protein in my diet, and I'm starting to metabolize my own protein, and this is the beginning of having to actually kind of rinse out my clothes. Otherwise, I couldn't sleep at night because of the stink. All right, so here there's plenty of shelters and everything. Most people probably wouldn't need to stop here. If you stopped where I had the night before at Punch Bowl, you'd probably keep going. So US 60 is where I decided that I would get off. What makes sense? US 60 is going to be a major road. I'll go here and I'll hitchhike into Buena Vista. Go to one of the hotels there in town, $45 a night, do a resupply, head back out the next morning and hit it. Well, it's still pretty early in the day, and I would say it was maybe about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock-ish. And, okay, well, this was a mistake, and this is a big foot stop for everybody. This is not a good place to hitchhike. Now, fortunately, I had 2 bars of Verizon on my cell phone, I think Verizon only there. What happens here, even though, yes, it's a big road, it's coming up and it crests a hill right here. And where it crests a hill, there's a pull-off and a picnic table. So a great place to actually, you would think, get a ride. But unfortunately, there are so many logging trucks coming up the hill towards Buena Vista that as they come up the hill and crest it, they now have a line of 20 cars behind them that have been trying to get around. And so the trucks will actually pull over onto the shoulder. And the first time it happened, I thought a big semi-log truck was going to pick me up. But what happens is that they'll pull over and let all these 20 cars go by. Well, those 20 cars that have been piled up now behind this log truck for who knows how many miles, they don't want to lose their opportunity to pass this truck, so they're not going to stop and pick you up. So this is a big fail on trying to hitchhike into here. Now there's some lodging there that will come pick you up when available, quote unquote, little air quotes there. However, what we ended up doing is Gary knew of a lady that was running a thing called the Three Springs Bunk and Breakfast. And when you look her up in the AWOL guide, Oma is who's running it. She was a hiker, and she decided there needed to be something between Glasgow and Rockfish Gap there at Waynesboro. So she bought a place and had just opened it up, called the Three Springs Bunk and Breakfast. And it, like, for $50 a night, which is a little pricey for what you might think is a hostel, but it was a little bit better than that. She should come pick. So anyway, it included breakfast, and a really nice breakfast too. So the option is, she'll come pick you up. You call her, she'll come pick you up, and she'll drive you into Buena Vista and charge you for it. Take you to the grocery store if you want to. But she has a resupply in her little bed and breakfast. And a very nice resupply. And matter of fact, it was all the resupply I needed. So, so we called her up. She came and got us and took her to a Three Springs hostel. And where it physically is a half a mile down this Forest Service road here from Hog Camp Gap. So she's just down the road about a half a mile. That's where she's physically located. So she came and picked us up in there. That night, I hope Gary doesn't mind me telling you this, but he ended up going to urgent care, what ended up being a kidney stone. So while he was working through that next day, Oma's business partner was there that day with her son, and she took me up here, and I slack packed back down and checked on Gary, and he decided to abort the hike with his sons. And so I think he took off and ended up going home. But I did this as a slack pack. Now, would I do it again that way? No. What I would do if I stayed at Brown Creek, I'd keep going. Okay. When you get up here, you can call Oma and let her know you want to be picked up, but really you don't need to do that, because it's only a half mile down the road. What I would do is I would keep going, okay? And there is a shelter. Pass that up, keep going, and get up here to this grassy meadow. There's water, there's great camping, great hammocking here. If you don't want to stay with her, stay there. Walk down the half mile. She has pizza, hamburgers that she'll cook for you to order. Sodas, she's got a resupply. She'll do like an ice cream with toppings on it for you, like with how they do it at the Cold Stone. She actually has this marble slab she'll take out of the freezer and do it for you. Really kind of neat. This is and see, I think it was Karma, whose parents had been following me in 2016. I met her here, did a little video with her at the hostel, and anyway, she just came down, and then Oma will drive you back up to the campsite. So you only have to walk down the Forest Service road. She'll take you back up. But if you do stay here versus Buena Vista, not to dump on Buena Vista because I've never been there, but her $50 with breakfast is just as good a deal as going in here at $45 without breakfast. Okay, so. And the environment was really, really kind of neat here. I've just got a picture of me kind of on the back deck looking out over the her property there. It's probably not the best. I do actually a video tour. If you go to my days, I think maybe day 106, you'll see, or probably 106, maybe 107. You'll see I'd actually do a video tour of the Three Springs hostel. Okay, so once again, you do have a cell signal here on Verizon. You have a cell signal here on Verizon, as well as up here with Verizon. From there, I went up that morning. It rained that night, and it was time to move on. So I'm hiking in the rain, basically, through this area here, and stopped in here at the Sealy Wadsworth Shelter for kind of a little bit of a late lunch for me, and got some water, and then kept going. The objective is to go to the priest. The priest, you can see, this is the kind of the way that you want to do the priest, is coming from the south. Okay, Crabtree Falls Campground is an option for resupply. However, it is a long way down off of the priest, and this Crabtree Falls, I'm told, is the largest waterfall east of the Mississippi. And I've hiked it with some scouts way back in 1996. We stayed at Crabtree Falls Campground, and we hiked up to the priest and stayed the night. Okay, that was a whole day event for us, going from Crabtree Falls up to the priest shelter. Okay, that was a whole day event. And then the next day, kind of walking up around here and then heading back down again. The priest is a cool place to stay. Yes, you're up high. Okay, you're up here at 4,000 feet again. And it's kind of a tradition on the AT for people to put confessions in the shelter log. And some of them are pretty humorous. And it's kind of the activity at the shelter at night is to kind of maybe read the journal, sometimes out loud with everybody laughing at different stuff. So there's some pretty cool writers out there. All right, so now coming off of the priest, you can see this is a heck of a descent. The good news is there's a lot of switchbacks in here. And so coming down, let me back up real quick. Do you remember me mentioning about slack packing? This was a lesson learned for me. The pack that I used didn't have a chest strap, and with the proliferous sweating that was going on with the heat this time of year, I ended up getting some really terrible chafing underneath my armpits. Not underneath the armpits, they just come in the front where the strap would kind of come down into the arms, and it was so bad that when I woke up in the morning here at the priest, I actually had my camp shirt was actually soaked with a little bit of blood from the oozing that was going on. So I spent the next 3 days in a lot of pain, and so that was a lesson learned for me. If you're going to use somebody's slack pack, if it doesn't have a chest strap on it, keep it loose, okay, or get a piece of string and create your own chest strap. Okay, so heading down here, I've got a photograph here. So we're already 1,000 foot down. Let me show you a view. Coming off the priest, looking down towards the valley. Okay, now for me, this is getting into a nostalgia area. Once again, like I said, I took some scouts backpacking up here once, and then 3 times in my life I've done this kind of Harpers Creek up over 3 ridges down to Malpin Fields, and have done that several times, and with my kids. So for me, this was a nostalgia moment. Matter of fact, as I got down here to the Tire River Bridge and ate lunch, this is where I lost my club cadet, my Swiss Army knife cadet. Left it sitting on a rock down here. Anyways, you come up. This is where this Malhar Trail comes in. This Malhar Trail allows you to skip over the 3 ridges, okay, and join back here at this Malpin Field shelter, so you can totally skip this. Now, this is a foot stop warning. If you think you want to do this because you don't want to hike 3 ridges and you want something easier, no, that's not what's going to happen. This Malpin Field to Harpers Creek Trail, Malhar Trail here, is very strenuous. It pretty much climbs up a descending, cascading creek. You will pay the price for doing that. So it's actually easier to stay on the AT and hike up. So I stayed at Harpers Creek. I wanted to do that because I've camped there twice with my own boys and then once with all 3 of my children, my daughter. So for me, this had a nostalgia moment. So I wanted to stay here and then tackle 3 ridges the next day, which happened to have been Father's Day. And then you're gonna have some great views as you come up here, and you got Chimney Rocks, top of 3 ridges, and then Hanging Rock. And then in July the 4th of 1997. I camped with all 3 of my kids up here. We watched the fireworks down the Shenandoah Valley. This is a great camping spot. No water. It's dry camping, so you got to make sure you bring up enough water with you. But that was a pretty neat event. And once again, being able to, that's one of my highlights so far of the AT, is to spend Father's Day talking with my kids and my grandkids up here, and reliving that moment when I got to share that with them. And then same thing back in the Malpin Fields. Now, most of you won't want to do this. You won't want to stop at Malpin Fields, because here at Reed's Gap, you can go into the I think this is the Devil's Backbone Brewery, where you can camp out behind, get a good meal, and sometimes they even cook breakfast for you in the morning just for the hikers only. So a lot of people really like going into here at Reed's Gap and going to the Devil's Backbone Brewery. For me, though, I didn't do that. I stayed here for nostalgic reasons, and then the next day, this does not look too bad. And I'd complain that this was way too rocky, okay, for my liking. But in comparison now to having done Pennsylvania, this was not that bad at all. Okay, so this is definitely doable. So this is some good ridgeline walking. You got some rocks you gotta worry about here. Humpback Mountain, I got scared pretty good. Something in the woods that was big that took off running. I'm not quite sure exactly what it was, but it did get my attention. Let's see. Well, let me show you, since I said it was one of my favorite moments here, though. Let me back up, and I'm going to show you a picture of me on the rock overhang. Also, the photo at the beginning with the boots, I took that when I was sitting there, kind of talking to my kids. So that's also up on the overlook, 3 ridges. Okay, back to what we were doing. We were talking about coming over Humpback, coming down into Paul Wolf Shelter. Now, what was interesting is when I got here, it's really pretty. Streams, waterfalls, really cool shelter, plenty of camping spots, plenty of hammocking spots, but there were probably like maybe 5 or 6 of us hikers that were there, but there were about 80 young girls with a church group and their leaders, ranging from age 12 to 18. And so if you think you're going to, they were actually really well behaved for church group of girls. But I was really worried about whether I was actually going to be able to get any sleep that night, but it worked out okay. Now, what was interesting is a bunch of them had hammocks with no tarps over top of them, and it was supposed to rain that night. Now, they got really lucky and it didn't rain, so it worked out real well for them. But what was fun is, and notice the date here, winter solstice is when? The 21st of June. And what happens when you're hiking on the 21st of June. It's hike naked day. Now, none of us thru hikers that were in the shelter area actually planned on hiking naked the next day. That's something that people don't need to see me doing. And but I remember going up to the leaders and telling them, "Are you aware that that tomorrow is hike naked day?" And because they were getting ready they were going to hike up to Humpback Mountain for their activity that day. And I said, you know, you might let the girls know that there is a possibility that they could come across a naked thru hiker, probably, you know, head on, coming this other direction. So that was fun to see their eyes light up and go, oh my gosh, what have we done? But it probably worked out just fine for them. I never saw anybody hiking naked that day. Okay, so I know that some people do, but it just wasn't something that I actually saw happen. So. Okay, so from there, we it's actually just a short, and in fact, if you're having a good day that day and it's still mid-afternoon, you don't have to stay here. You can go ahead and head up to Rockfish Gap because it's not that much further. It's not that much of a hike. It is a little bit of an up grind, but it's very doable. So, and you can get into Waynesboro here where you can do a resupply. I went into a bed and breakfast for $80 a night. I think that was probably a mistake. Nothing about it. It's just that what ended up happening is after the first night there, I was in such pain. I asked them to take me to urgent care, where they told me to take 2 weeks off the trail, and I took 5 days. But I stayed there an extra day, and then I went up to the Comfort Inn, and each of those nights were $80. I had wished I'd gone to the hostel there at Stanimal. The people that I met later on that had gone there said it was great, and it would have been a lot less expensive. And I probably would have taken the 2 weeks off the trail that I needed to heal, and because I didn't, I ended up here. And the next leg that I'll do was my last one for 2016. All right, I'm going to show you a picture of me at Rockfish Gap, and let me give you a narrative ahead of time. Okay, if you look over what is my left shoulder, which is on the right side of the photograph, you'll see the park entry station. Of course, one of the biggest questions is, okay, where do I get my Shenandoah Mountain hiking pass? Well, it's not there. And what you'll do is you will just get on the AT. You're going to cross, and you're going to go back. You're just going to stay on the AT back past that check-in station, and just keep going. And eventually, you come up to this little kiosk in the woods, and you'll fill everything out there. It'll be stamped, and you put your copy in the box, and you keep right on going. What you want to do, though, before you get there, is you're going to want to have your plan, because they're going to want to know where you're stopping for each of your legs. Okay, where are you planning on camping? And so you might want to have that handy. Also, if you look at that guardrail just off my left side, or the right side of the photograph, I'm not going to put a picture of it here. It's something I took a picture of in case I needed it, but it was an 8.5 by 11 laminated piece of paper with a bunch of phone numbers on it of trail angels and shuttles that will come pick you up and take you into Waynesboro. Okay, so you don't have to worry about trying to hitchhike. There's plenty of people, and it even says on there, hey, you know, pick a name somewhere else on the list other than always calling the first person on the list, because it's all in alphabetical order, and you can imagine that first person always gets the phone call all the time. So it said, you know, kind of mix it up a little bit. And, you know, I took a photograph of it so I could have that over the course of my stay there, which I used several times, and I recommend that. There'll be times when you come across notices and stuff like that, or things that shelters or people's business cards. You know, take a photograph of them, because you never know. A couple of days later, you might need them, and you'd wish you had that contact info. So, all right, everybody. If you get any questions, comments, leave them in the comment section below, and I'll try and get to them as I can. Once again, you know, if you're not subscribed, please do so. Please like these. If you like them. If you don't, of course, don't. But you know, like, share, and subscribe. That's the way that YouTube wants us to grow these days. Is it's important apparently now to have likes and subscribes and shares. So, all right. Thank you, everybody. Bye.